British Sundays used to move at half speed. Nobody rushed, nobody planned much, and somehow it worked. It was a day that felt completely different from the other 6. A strange, slow, and actually quite lovely pause in the week. Let's go back. Think about waking up on a Sunday morning. There were no alarm clocks, no frantic search for school shoes, no panic about being late. Sunday mornings didn't start. They gently arrived. You'd wake up not to a noise, but to a feeling. The specific quality of morning light filtering through net curtains, dust motes dancing in the sunbeams, and a smell, the unmistakable scent of something already cooking, even though it was hours before you'd eat. Dad was always awake first, pottering about, doing something entirely unnecessary but very important, seeming like checking the tire pressure on the car for the 4th time that month. The house was quiet, but it was a warm quiet, full of the promise of a day with no demands. And at the heart of that quiet house was the kitchen, the command center for the entire day. The Sunday dinner prep didn't begin at a sensible hour. Oh no, it started around 10 in the morning. Mum would be in there, surrounded by an army of pots and pans, the oven already blasting out heat. It wasn't just cooking. It was a military operation. There were potatoes to peel, carrots to chop, and a joint of meat that seemed to take on a life of its own. Family members would drift in and out of the kitchen, drawn by the smells. Someone was always designated to check the potatoes, which really just meant lifting the lid, letting a cloud of steam escape, and saying, "Yep, they're boiling." It wasn't just dinner. It was an all-day event, a focal point that the rest of the day orbited around. Then came the pre-dinner ritual, the pub. Now, old-school British pubs had their own set of weird Sunday rules. They opened early, maybe around noon, but then they shut, without fail, at 2 o'clock. It was a hard deadline. Dad would announce he was off for 1 pint, a phrase we all knew was a beautiful work of fiction. As kids, we were allowed in the garden or the family room, a slightly less sticky area at the back. We'd be given a bottle of Coke with a straw and a bag of salt and vinegar crisps, which felt like the height of sophistication. Everyone in the pub knew everyone. It was a brief, concentrated burst of community, and honestly, closing at 2 felt reasonable. You'd done enough socializing for one afternoon. It was time to go home for the main event. But before the dinner, there was often another mandatory activity, the Sunday walk. No one ever explicitly asked for the Sunday walk. It just sort of happened. Everyone would suddenly be putting on coats and wellies, pretending they were thrilled about the idea. Mum would usually be the one championing it, saying things like, "It's so nice to get some fresh air," while we all privately thought about the television. Dad would immediately set off at a pace that suggested he was training for a marathon, leaving everyone else trailing behind. You'd trudge through a park or across a muddy field, the only one genuinely having the time of its life being the dog, who couldn't believe its luck. But looking back, there was a strange togetherness in that shared reluctance. No one asked for the walk, but everyone went. And then, the moment we'd all been waiting for, dinner, we'd gather around the dining table, which was only ever used on Sundays and at Christmas. Out came the proper plates, not the chipped, everyday ones. The gravy jug was passed around like a sacred treasure, with hushed reverence. The table was a symphony of chaos and comfort. Someone always spilled their drink. An argument would flare up about who got the last roast potato, only to be forgotten moments later. But, for that 1 hour, everyone sat down together. No phones, no distractions, just the clatter of cutlery, the slightly too loud chewing, and the simple act of sharing a meal. It was the anchor of the day, a moment of enforced family time that was more precious than we realized. What followed dinner was a phenomenon I can only describe as afternoon sloth mode. The entire household would migrate to the living room and enter a state of semi-consciousness. Within minutes of sitting down, Dad would be fast asleep in his favorite armchair, newspaper draped over his chest, emitting a gentle snore. The TV would be on, playing some old black and white film or a nature documentary. But nobody was really watching it. You weren't fully awake, but you weren't fully asleep either. You were just digesting. It was a collective, post-roast shutdown. This, right here, was peak British efficiency. The art of doing absolutely nothing together. You'd think, after that enormous dinner, nobody would eat again for a week. You would be wrong. Come late afternoon, the concept of Sunday tea would emerge. It wasn't a meal born of hunger, but of habit. Plates of leftovers would appear as if by magic. Slices of cold roast chicken, maybe a few slightly sad-looking cold roasties, and for reasons that remain a mystery to science, bread and butter. Always bread and butter. You weren't remotely hungry. The thought of more food was faintly horrifying. But it felt rude not to eat. So you'd make a little sandwich, have one last cold potato, and participate in the final, gentle feast of the day. As the light outside started to fade, the evening chill began. The big light would be switched off, and lamps would be turned on, casting a soft, warm glow around the room. The curtains would be drawn, shutting out the world and creating a cozy sanctuary. This was bath night. The one night of the week a proper bath was non-negotiable, ready for school the next day. Clean pajamas and the next day's uniform would be laid out. Voices in the house would become quieter and softer. There was a calm that settled over everything. That Sunday night feeling gets a bad rap, but it wasn't always about dreading Monday. Sunday evenings weren't sad, they were gentle. A quiet, peaceful reset before the noise of the week began again. British Sundays didn't try to impress. They weren't about grand adventures or exciting plans. They just brought people together. They were slower, simpler, and built around small, comforting rituals we all took for granted. And looking back, they were somehow better than we realized. Thanks for taking this trip down memory lane with me. If you enjoyed that, stick around. Next time, we're diving into some more classic British culture. When the world seemed a little kinder and brighter. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave your memories of Sundays gone by in the comments below, and I'll see you then.